Hello and welcome to episode 6 of Join Up Dots, the show that is so good, I'm going to listen to it myself.
Welcome to Join Up Dots, amazing conversation. Join Up Dots, get a dose of motivation. Join Up Dots, don't forget the inspiration. Welcome to the place that's got the light. Join Up Dots, Join Up Dots, Join Up Dots, Join Up Dots. Join Up Dots.
Yes, hello there everybody and welcome to today's guest. And we've got a fine one in the house today. Our guest today is someone who doesn't realise what he can't do. If you give him an obstacle or challenge, he doesn't just go round it, he literally smashes it to pieces. During his college football career, he led the way in unassisted tackles in a season and set an all-time record for most unassisted tackles in a game. 21. Go him. And this was from a guy who everyone thought was a little bit small to make his mark in the game. And to be honest, I'm from England, so I don't really understand American football, but that all sounds very impressive. What is even more impressive, and this time I can understand it, is how he took these athletic performances, will to win, and inability to know his limitations, and created a way of tackling things head-on in business and in his own life too. In August 2010, our guest created Athletic Capital, an organisation that was founded through the support of many people wanting to discover true meaning in their life, as well as inspire positive change in those around them. Once you start creating positive momentum, you can start to believe you can tackle greater and more challenging tasks. And with this desire for positive change, our guest, alongside Athletic Capital, commenced their first international mission. Mission Kilimanjaro, a quite amazing adventure that made it possible for Carl Maynard, a quadruple amputee, to crawl the 19,341 feet to the summit without assistance. That is truly amazing. Bringing us up to date, Athletic Capital successfully launched a higher purpose project by bringing 25 people from 6 different countries around the world to join forces and push each other to find their true purpose in life. And of course, bringing even more positive change to the world. So where do we start? What do we focus in on first? Well, there's only one place to start, and that is, of course, to introduce tonight's guest, Dan Adams. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, David. You know, that was a great introduction, man. Very well done, and it's a true honor to be on your show.
Now, thank you very much. It's an absolute honor to have you here as well. You have really, you've packed so much in your life, haven't you? How old are you actually at the moment, Dan?
I'm 29 years old.
So have you always been somebody that's gone out and got what they wanted and sort of worked towards things? Or is this something that has occurred in what most of us would say the period after our fun first phase of money, career, and maybe sort of like childhood and areas where responsibility aren't as prevalent in our life?
I think, for me, it's been a byproduct of, just confronting failures, confronting setbacks and different things. For me, athletics was the medium. So sometimes it's music, sometimes it's art, sometimes it's whatever you're passionate about. And I learned a lot of key lessons through those experiences early, and they really set the stage for the things that I'm doing now, because it's a universal mindset that you find in all of those things. If you hold to a vision, if you're able to visualize your outcome, if you're able to move into the unknown, go get comfortable in that darkness and the insecurity and the fears that come about, and just keep on pushing forward, it's amazing things result. And I think with every experience that you have, it continues to build your confidence. And, it's just an evolution. Like this whole life is an evolution, and it's just really fun to just play with the story that you're creating.
But you've got to be pretty aware to want to start that in the first place. The majority of people that certainly I have spent my time with over the last 10, 15 years are in what I call content zone. They don't hate their job enough to do anything about it, but they will moan about it as well. But they still coming in day after day after day to do the thing that really doesn't set them alight. But for you to say that, if you visualize what you want, you can make it happen. Of course, I actually totally agree with that. But How does somebody get to that point if they are in, as I say, contentment zone when life isn't that awkward or poor for them that makes them want to visualize something better?
It depends, it's a little bit different from everyone. I mean, I think, different people come into the world with different lessons to learn. We all have different experiences growing up, but I think a lot of times it's born out of pain. You experience a result again and again and again, that is painful for you, and you decided, wow, like I don't want to experience this anymore, and this is what I want to do. And I've been very fortunate. A lot of the things that I've wanted to create in my life, I've really built a strong emotion, around those things, and I think that's really important for people. When kind of thinking about, the why, the purpose behind their life, everything comes down to vibration, emotion of what you're trying to create. And for me, whenever I set a goal, I make sure to really embed that with a really strong personal why, and with Mission Kilimanjaro, empowering Kyle to the top of the mountain in Africa was a wonderful thing. But for me, my personal why was I had my own family members that dealt with, that victim mindset, and society being like, oh, you're gonna have to be on these drugs for the rest of your life. You're going to have this disease and there's nothing you can do. And so I wanted to stand for the ideal that we're all creators. We can be the heroes of our own life. And I was willing to die to that ideal to bring it to life. And it has to be so strong. It almost has to trigger a really emotional reaction, like almost like bringing you to tears, over the course of bringing it to life. And I think that really anchors, some of these things that we want to do, rather than just being aspirations and, us not taking any real steps towards creating that type of change.
So you buy into the no pain, no gain kind of logic. If it's worth doing, it's going to be difficult.
No, I think that's an initial opener, because anything we react to in this life is usually something we haven't come to terms with ourselves. So it's basically just an indicator of, something that's important to you. And I think, that's an opening for you to figure out, all right, like, what do I value in this life? What is important to me? What type of issues, what type of things, what type of passions am I drawn to? And how can I, create the outcome? How can I create the story that focuses on the solution rather than the problem? And it's amazing. I think awareness is the greatest gift we have in this world. It's like our superpower. And wherever you concentrate that awareness is what you create more of, And I think a lot of people in this life, what they don't understand is they focus all of their energy on what they don't want as opposed to what they want, And so when you cue your awareness on things that anger you and frustrate you, and you just focus on that victim mindset, like these are the problems, I'm never going to get out of it. It is what it is. You create more of that in your external reality, And I think a lot of people, especially myself, like I had the opportunity to kind of understand that, if I focus my awareness on the things that I want to build in this life and I hold to those ideals, I can draw back, I can connect the dots from past experiences and be like, yeah, this can really happen. And that helps give you the necessary confidence to continue pushing forward and continue, building upon the dreams you've already established.
It was interesting when we connected to get you actually on the show. You sent me a fascinating article where you'd actually sat there and joined up your dots. You'd connected those points through your life that had led you to this point. Was that something that you felt an urge to do on your own, or was that part of a project that you was actually involved in to look back and actually join up your dots?
No, it was actually just a personal project. I'd seen Stephen Jobs' commencement speech, and I was looking at my life at the time. I was working in corporate America. I was doing something that wasn't aligned with my true passions, and I felt that pain of just not kind of living up to the potential I saw in myself. And so
And what were you doing, Dan, in corporate America? Sorry to interrupt, but what were you doing that didn't align to your passions?
I was in finance, so I was working in finance. I was following the path of my father, because as an early child, I had this imprint that, doing what my dad did, I could make a lot of money. I could create the life that I wanted. And what happened is I succeeded, in that outcome. I made a lot of money early in finance, but I recognized the void. And once that void came up, I was like, man, like I have the resources now, but I'm not living aligned. I'm climbing up the wrong ladder, and that was a that was a great lesson for me because it helped me at a very young age. I was only 25 years old at the time, or 24 years old at the time. It helped me realize, just the illusion of what most people cling to, security, stability, insurance, all these things that prevent people from taking a leap to pursue the things that are really important to them. And by seeing that, I was like, I, I would rather die than live this life. And I think one of the most difficult steps that you initially make along your journey is confronting the people that you love, your friends and your family and your wife and your girlfriend, and really voicing, the things that you want to live in this life, the story you want to create, and then having the courage to take that leap when you might not necessarily have the support structure around you.
No, I think that's an absolute key point to anyone who's wanting to change their path. I've started to do this, and this is a career change for me, a huge career change for me. Up to now, I've been in the corporate land, and I've been in contentment zone as well. I've been going in every day, doing my job, coming home, getting my pay packet. But it started to get stronger and stronger and stronger to me, and I still think, even though I've now quit my job and I'm doing this full time, I still think people don't really understand it. My wife kind of supports me because she believes in my desire to create a better life for not only myself, but for them, for my children, and for my wife and my family. But I haven't got that support around me at the moment. And doing this, I have felt incredibly isolated, except for moments when I've been able to be fortunate enough to contact people like yourself and my other guests and realize that you're not actually on your own. You don't actually need the support group of people right next to you, because there is a movement around the world of people doing the same thing as you. You may not know them at the time that you get that urge to do it, but you have got a support group wherever you are. You don't only have to look for it.
Absolutely, and that's a great realization, and I mean, that's just the world that we live in. We have all these great devices that enable us to connect to all people all around the world, people that we admire. Whenever I watch a film or read a book, I figure out a way to collaborate with the author and the filmmakers. And it's just so fun. It's so fun to build collaborations to help people forward in their own path. And, it's amazing too to see the evolution as well. Like once you're on this journey, I think one of the most rewarding things is seeing paradigm shift in people you love. Their perspective expands because they see your willingness to hold to your vision and your ideal. And when they see that vision and ideal succeeds, they're like, man, it gives them permission to do the things that they want to do. And they're like, and I think that's been one of the most rewarding things in my life, because I really believe that the people that love you the most can also be your greatest opposition sometimes, because they care about you. They don't want to see you fail. They want to see you deal with the difficult spots that are really necessary over the course of your evolution, over the course of the building of your dream. But when you can give people permission to do the things that really make them come to life through the life that you're leading, I think that's tremendously rewarding. And I think it's really just the greatest thing in this world. I mean, I don't think anything top.
So the interesting thing for me is you are creating a path that is your unique self. It's your authentic self. But to begin with, you was creating a path that was your father's authentic self. So he obviously was very proud of you following in his footsteps. I imagine all dads would be. But when you finally got to the point you said, look, Dad, this isn't me. I know I'm earning a lot of money. I know that I'm probably leading the life that you would like me to lead because it's the life that you understand, because it's the life that you have led. How did he come to terms with that? Or did he just support you straight off the bat?
It was really, at first it was a little bit difficult, because I respect my father tremendously. I've always looked up to him ever since I was a little kid. I mean, that's the reason I played football. That's the reason I kind of got invested in a lot of the passions I had early on. But I think, with my dad, I started to realize, he was just projecting his own fears, fears that he has in his own life through his own experiences. And I think the big opener for me, it was when I brought my father into one of the events that I had put on. It was, a $20,000 event when I was just starting out, for a local football coach, high school coach in the area. And I brought in all these filmmakers. I rented out a hotel because I really wanted to celebrate this guy's life. And my dad was, super nervous about the experience because he thought I was going to lose all my money and he thought I was stupid. And he was really frantic, at the beginning of the event. And I had to pull him aside and I had to basically just talk to him, and I felt like our roles kind of shifted a little bit in that moment where I just told him, you just need to, everything's going to be fine. It's going to work out. But the amazing thing is I saw a complete transformation. We left that little powwow, before the event. And at the end of the event, I saw my dad, I just saw him from afar. And, he had nothing but, he was just basically boasting about me to, his friends and the people he was talking to. And so, it was neat just to see, that opening for him. And even though he voiced those concerns, that's his own stuff, and it's up to me to be able to confront my fears, my insecurities, and, hold to the things that are important. And I think that's universal in all of us. And if we can do it with a parent, we can do it with anyone. So, it's a great practice, that we all have to endure.
I'm in a situation at the moment where my family do not understand what I'm doing in any shape or form. My friends, they kind of think I've had some kind of mental breakdown, I believe. So I find it amazing that my younger supporters, my children, who haven't got a sense of economics and understanding of dad has to support them, just believe that I'm doing something incredible with my life and are willing to share it around with everyone, even though on the great scheme of things, I've only just started. But my parents and my wife, I feel that they're still keeping it secret because they think it's a phase that I'm going through. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely, absolutely. And the thing is this is what leads to everything. Every hero, the hero, if you break down the Greek root word of hero, is the chooser. And, going into this unknown space and holding to that vision, that's when all the amazing resources happen. But it's really kind of an uncomfortable position to be in initially. But if you have the courage to do it, it's like Indiana Jones, when he takes the leap of faith and then he finds himself on the plank, he doesn't die, he makes it. And, I think it's universal for all of us. So if we're willing to go into that darkness and we get comfortable in that darkness, the light is far easier to see. And as you progress on your path, more and more things, start lining themselves up. Like analytically, you're like, oh, how is this going to happen? You start to analyze, this and that. And then, you meet people, different resources come to you serendipitously. Really, it's the same thing. If you look at every single amazing leader in humanity, this is the way it always works. And it always begins with an idea. And then, you have to take that step. You have to, commit that first action to move towards that goal.
I think that's the perfect point for me to play the amazing speech, which I try to do on every show because that really is the theme of the whole show, Join Up Dots by Steve Jobs. Differently to other guests, what I want to do is play it this time and actually ask about the first time that you heard this and how it actually made you feel, whether you thought he hit the nail directly on the head or it took you a while to sort of grow into his words. So I'm just going to play this and then I'm going to ask you a few things.
Of course, it was impossible to connect the dots looking forward when I was in college, but it was very, very clear looking backwards 10 years later. Again, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. Because believing that the dots will connect down the road will give you the confidence to follow your heart even when it leads you off the well-worn path. And that will make all the difference.
So, how did that make you feel when you first heard that or you read that speech?
So this Steve Jobs' speech was amazing. You know, it really connected to me on all levels. And for me, when something connects, I immediately apply it to my own experiences, and just see how it resonates. And so I started to look back on my own experiences, experiences where I succeeded, experiences where I failed, and I found a lot of truth with his words. And I think diagramming, the entire course of my journey, it really helped provide, just the motivation and that kind of support when I needed it most, because it was an indicator, that that world exists. That if you hold to an ideal, if you hold to a belief or perception that you have, you can create that reality in this external world. And I've had so many serendipitous events that it's one in 100 billion that it would take place, and I've come to fully believe this in every aspect of my life, and that's what gives me the courage to take the leaps that I do with everything I do, because it's always an evolution. And I think when you get done with one journey, you're on to the next. You're on to the next evolution, and you have to make sure that you're grounded, and you continue to think about that bigger picture, with the story you're creating.
Do you remember the very first time, whether you was a child or whether you was a teenager, that you actually thought to yourself, yes, I want to do something big with my life. I want to do something that provides value back to others?
Yeah. I had a really kind of amazing experience when I was 12 years old. I was playing on a Little League baseball all-star team. So this is Little League baseball in America. So I was 12 years old, and I was basically a reserve player. I was a backup, so I sat on the bench, for most of the time on an all-star team. And I continually visualized making a big impact, for the team. And it ended up, in the last game that we played in a championship series, and I hadn't played at all, throughout the entire experience. And in the bottom of the sixth inning, we were down 12-8, and there were two outs, and they decided to put me in as a pinch hitter. And so I went in there, and I just remember the entire time while I was on that team, I just visualized again and then again and then again, making a tremendous impact, for my teammates. And I operated out a sense of compassion and appreciation, during the entire time that I was there. I was very thankful to be part of an all-star team, despite not being, not playing all the time, not being a starter. And what happened is I ended up hitting a grand slam, in the bottom of the sixth inning. And as I was rounding second base, I couldn't tell the difference. Like, I didn't know if I was in a dream or if I was in reality. And that was the first experience where I just saw the power of visualization. And the amazing thing is when I went to Africa, I started to feel a little bit of insecurity and uncertainty about our trip. We had raised, close to 60 grand. We had brought a full film team. We had, taken all these steps. And then when we got to Africa, I started to worry about Kyle's safety. I started to worry about, our team, all those fears that come up when you take that leap. But I looked up, and our driver on the way to the mountain was wearing a baseball hat of the team I had played in that Little League game. So he's wearing a Central Springfield hat from my hometown in Virginia.
And he was an African?
Yeah, he was an African. We were in Tanzania. And, when I saw that, I instantly knew that everything was going to be okay. The chances of a little league baseball hat that was most likely donated through Goodwill to show up on the head of a Tanzanian that was like 10,000 miles away, it's unbelievable, and I still think about that and it gives me chills, just thinking about it.
And did you ask him how he actually got that hat? Maybe he'd gone through your luggage and nicked it.
Yeah, no, I did ask him, and he said that he had bought it at a store, and in Tanzania, what they do is they take a lot of the Goodwill items, the items that are donated from Americans, and they resell them, and so he had bought this hat, and it was amazing, that was the first experience in my life where I realized the power of visualization. And that's the same process I've used for everything that I've done in this life.
Is visualization for people that don't visualize? And I hold my hand up and I say I do. It's something that I do, not every day, but quite often I will be driving along and probably go into a bit of a daydream, which isn't good when you're driving. And I will visualize certain aspects of my life so that when I hit that, it's almost like I'm there already. Do you think it is a case of connecting or joining up the dots mentally in your mind to make those connections occur? Or is it that you just feel more confident that you're going into the unknown because you've already felt like you've been in that position?
Yeah, I think it's a combination. For me, just the act of visualizing, speaking, the visions, that I want to create. I create a lot of vision boards as well. I'm a very visual learner. I'm a very visual person, and it really helps me, with building experiences, events, my life. And I think, abracadabra, it's really interesting. Abracadabra, in Aramaic, is the words I speak become truth. And, for me, that process of visualization in sports, for example, like I would basically run through the mental reps in my head. So my body would react as if I was in that environment. Like my heart would speed up. And what I had found is, especially in college, playing college football, is the night before I would go through all of my assignments, all the things that I needed to do on game day. And when I got to that game, it was like I had already played, and I was able to succeed, in making the plays I had envisioned in my mind. And so I was able to transition that mindset into all aspects of my life, relationships, my career, money, because when you can hold and you focus your awareness on those visualizations, that unlocks like the resources, and you become very perceptive towards little things around you that help you towards that outcome you're trying to create. It might be a book that stands out to you that provides the answers to a question that you've asked. Someone might come up to you on the subway and tell you something. You're like, how did you know that? And it's something it can't always be explained by math or science or any of our traditional methods, but it's very real. And if you're willing to voice those things and you're willing to hold to those beliefs, it can happen.
As I've been getting these shows together, one of the things I really want to do is, of course, inspire the masses. I want to inspire the lost generation of people who are in jobs and they're not willing to take the action to sort of change their situation. And one of the things that I have found that has shocked me, and it still shocks me every day that I do this, is when I have asked people who really should not say yes to me because I'm a no one. Generally, the higher I go up the ladder, the more likely they are to say, yes, I will help you. Have you found that? Because it honestly, it blows me away every time. I think, why the hell have they said yes to me?
Absolutely. And I think, the more you believe in, your value, when you come to terms with that within yourself, like, you know what, I can provide value to anyone in this world. I can reach out to Brad Pitt and movie stars, and if I can figure a way to bring value to their path, and I can put myself in their shoes, and I can be present, and I know my own value, then people see that in you, and with you, David, the email that you sent out, and how structured you are and how much you believe in this, it really echoes through your work, and people recognize that, and they want to help you, they want to work with you, and I think the people that I really resonate with are the people that are humble, are the people that are willing to be open, and the people that focus on the small details. And usually that's through a series of failures, series of kind of guess and check, learning from your own experiences. And one of the things that's really interesting, one of our speakers at the Higher Purpose Project, he talks about, how it's really more difficult if you think about it from a probability standpoint. It's really more difficult to get hired at like a Taco Bell, like a fast food restaurant,
Mm,
is to go to space, because there's fewer people that are trying, that set the bar that high.
spot on,
And
spot on.
yeah, and it's amazing. This young man, he actually partnered with Richard Branson for the SpaceX mission. He's going to become one of the first people to photograph space with a Hasselblad camera. So it's people that are really living it, and it's the it is the truth, like you have a greater probability of going to space than you do often, working for a Taco Bell. There's a lot of people that apply to work at Taco Bell, and there's very few people that are actively reaching out to Branson in creative ways, to provide value to some really epic missions, some really world-changing things.
The crazy point of view at the moment as well, and it's I think it's just going to get stronger and stronger and stronger. I'm 43 years old, and when I left school, you basically went straight into a job, and it was classed as a job for life. By the time I got to about the year 2000, that phrase, a job for life, had died. Now, I've got an 8-year-old and a 12-year-old. So the 12-year-old is going into senior school, as we call it in the UK. I'm not sure how it works over in America. But he's going to be there till he's 17. And I was saying to him the other day, get your exams, study as hard as you can, but at the end of it, have a dream. Have a dream that you can focus in on and create. Because by creating a dream that is self-fulfilled, you're actually going to be more stable than going into a job where they can get rid of you whenever they want. Create your own income, create your own life, and whether you are running a diving school in Tanzania or whatever you're doing, it really doesn't matter. I want the children now to come out at the other end and think, I don't need to get a job. I've got an internet, I've got a computer, I need to make connections, I need to believe in myself, and I need to think of the right questions to ask myself on a daily basis. And then, in the long term, my life will be more stable than going into a job for 30 years and every day thinking, is this going to be my last one?
Absolutely. And the greatest thing is, as a parent, you're leading, the path of the Father, and that's a very difficult path. And the great thing is you're holding that space for your children. You're embodying a very important message in this world that I think is becoming more and more understood. Like, all bets are off. Our perceptions, create our realities. It's our responsibility to, go out there and, lead a life of impact. And to understand that, it's up to us with the story that we're creating. And by you doing it yourself, energetically, that's going to have a tremendous impact on your kids. I think one of the biggest difficulties, for a lot of parents is, they tell their kids, go follow your dreams, go do this. Meanwhile, they're working some job that they hate. They go and complain, and then the kids see, they see the hypocrisy in that. They see it a lot of times in their teachers. Teachers are like, oh, do unto others like you do unto yourself, follow your dreams, continue to rise up. And, meanwhile, the teacher is complaining about her benefits. She's complaining about her time off. And, why is it you do what you do? And whether you're a trash collector, you can figure out creative ways to provide value to people. And no matter what you do in this world, it's all about how you make people feel. And if you're doing routine jobs and figuring out, creative and neat ways to authentically connect with people, that's all you need to do, because money is an extension of energy. Money is energy. And so if you create value, if you share energy with other people, you can ask your price and you can dictate that price. And that's what's so important to understand, especially in today's world.
Why do you think, though, that so few people actually grasp what you said? I was talking to a chap the other day on one of the episodes, and he said the more he doesn't think about money, the more money he makes. Quite simple as that.
For me, it's not letting money create a prison around me. Money is a story. It's a story that we've created. It's simply numbers on a screen. And as you start working a lot on the online community, I run the Higher Purpose Project, so a lot of our transactions are online, and it's simply just numbers. I never really have money in my hands. And, I think, I was very fortunate to grow up in a financial background. So I started to understand, how to just to cover the basics of, all right, this is how much money is going out. This is how much money is going in. But I think wherever you focus your awareness, so if I have any type of money issues, I just figure out different ways I can provide value to people. It's an indicator like, all right, Dan, like you're consuming too much and you need to spend more time, around individuals. You need to figure out different ways that you can provide value to people in your community. And, I figured out too, like, money is one form of exchange, but there's also a lot of other forms of exchanges. And, when you kind of get outside of that set thinking, amazing things open up. And, I'll share this too. Like when we wanted to create Kilimanjaro, we had no idea how we were going to raise the money. I had basically taken on like a $60,000, debt, to make it happen. And I was willing to die to that ideal. And what happened as a result, we got a $10,000 donation from a Prancer healer in Brazil that we had never met before. We got a $10,000 donation from Ted Leonsis, who owns two sports teams in DC. It's simply amazing. You can't analytically, figure how the things are going to happen. The how of the dreams you're trying to create, but the resources flow when you're open and when you're in alignment.
No, you're absolutely right, because if you sit in a cupboard with the doors closed and never speak to anyone or never do anything, obviously your life is never going to change. But the thing that people need to understand, and I don't want to preach to people. Everyone's got their own lives. Everyone's got their own issues. And I'm not saying that my life and the journey that I've chosen for myself is the right one in any shape or form. But I will say to the listeners that the more you get out there, the more you become aware, the more you read, the more you instead of sitting at home watching the telly in the evening, then read a blog or read an article and see that these amazing people out there are doing creative things. And the more you read, you will come to a point when you go, I could do that. And it's not an epiphany. It's just a gradual realization of your own skills. And you can see that other people are using those skills that you've got better than you. And once you get that realization, then really the world is your oyster, and you can go out there with the confidence to actually ask for help and make things happen.
Absolutely. And that's so important too. Like in today's world, if you want to learn something, you can simply Google it. If you want to study someone, I mean, at least for me, like I learn a lot from people that do, people that learn from their direct experiences. And so when I'm interested in learning a particular, passion or something I'm interested in, I just reach out to someone that's creating that thing on the highest level. So they've achieved a lot of success around a certain model. and I figure out a way to provide value to them. I connect with them as a human being, like I just kind of generate like an authentic conversation, and I put myself in their shoes, and I figure out ways that I can provide value to them on their current path. In exchange for that, I learn how they do what they do, and then I creatively take some of the things that have been successful for them. I apply that to my own path, and then I evolve it to fit my own creative skill set. And that's part of the amazing world that we live in, and it's just understanding those opportunities and becoming aware of that amazing ability.
Well, what I want to do, I do want to sort of finish the conversation talking, obviously, about the Higher Purpose Project, because that's the main point of your focus at the moment. But I am intrigued. I don't know anything about American football. I've been to one American football match in my life. I saw the Arizona Cardinals play some team with helmets on. I can't remember who they were. And I didn't understand a single thing that was happening. I just know that there was an awful lot of adverts, and it went on for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours.
Right.
But why was it then that physically, from everything I've read about you, you were too small to play the game, but you was incredibly successful at it? Was it the visualization that you was talking about earlier? Was it bloody-mindedness? Was it because you were smaller, you were sort of lighter on your feet? What actually, going back to those days, was it that made you successful? Because it seems to be against the norm that is expected for a player in that sport.
Yeah, and this is a universal thing that is really applicable to anything, whether it's football or career or whatever you put your attention on. And like athletics for me, it enabled me to understand at an early age that I didn't have to believe in the perspectives of other people. Because there's a lot of people that told me, Dan, you'll never succeed at this. You're not big enough to be able to compete at this level. And rather than putting energy towards that perspective, I just put energy into the life I wanted to create for myself. I put energy into the outcome I wanted to build. And that outcome was being a captain of my team, was succeeding on the highest level in the sport. And I think I was able to achieve that, for, the physical stature that I had in this, coming into this world. And I think, the other thing that was really important with me is I never surrendered to outcomes, so I don't view failure as failure until you quit, right? It's just an outcome. And so I went to practice. I never missed a practice when I was in college. When I got when I got hit hard, when I got knocked down, when I made, a mistake, I just got back up, and it was another play. And I think that's really important for all of us. Don't get caught up in these little things, in these little mishaps. Just continue pushing forward. Have a little self-compassion for yourself, show yourself a little bit of self-love, and just get back up and rise up. Because if you answer the bell in this life, you'll never lose. If you answer the bell every single round, you will always come out on top. And that's what you have to realize. And people love, and here's the great thing too, is even if you don't achieve the ideal outcome of what you set out to create, you have an amazing story. And that's what's great.
Yes.
Nobody wants to talk to an old person with no stories. And so that's the way I see it.
Have you seen the film Rudy?
I have. It's one of my favorites, actually.
Because it was really weird. I started reading up about yourself, and I was struck by the fact that, physically you weren't the biggest one to play football, but you was incredibly successful. I mean, I stumbled across this film on Netflix called Rudy. And for anyone who hasn't seen this film, if you can find it, watch it, because it is so life-affirming. It's about a chap, and I can't remember his full name, but his name's Rudy, obviously, who was too small to play American football as a child. And he wanted to go to Notre Dame, which is his favourite football team. And his father said, no, you're too small. It's a dream. You're not going to do that. And he said, yes, I am. And literally his whole life, everyone said to him, you can't do it. You can't do it. You can't do it. And he just kept on persevering. And he gets over one obstacle, and he keeps on persevering. And he gets over the next one. And he keeps on striving. And more people come out of the woodwork and say, you can't do it. You can't do it. You can't do it. And he just keeps on going. And it really emphasizes what you were saying. If you turn up every single time, by default, you're either going to win or you're going to come very close to winning, I would have thought, because the majority of people will give up somewhere along the line.
Absolutely. And it's really interesting. Like yeah, everyone's always told me throughout my life, oh, like you went to Holy Cross, you played for this football team. Your story reminds me of Rudy Rudiger. And, I think it would be really neat, at some point in my life for someone to go up to Rudy Rudiger and be like, you know what, Rudy, your story really reminds me of that kid, Dan Adams. I don't know if you've heard of him before.
That would be amazing, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. And so I think, I think at the end of my life, I think that'll happen. If Rudy's still around, I think we'll be able to share some good laughs together.
Have you ever tried to contact him?
Actually, I have not tried to contact Rudy. I've tried to, I've connected with a lot of heroes, people doing really cool things, but Rudy, I've actually never, I actually saw him speak when I was a couple years out of school. And, I connected to some of the things that he said. And I love his overall story. I love some of the themes within that story because it connects with a lot of elements in my life. But for me, like, I think, building upon that story too, I really resonate with people that have dealt with, extreme tragedy in their life. And, they've refused to surrender. They've refused to become a victim. Like, for example, we have a kid in the Higher Purpose Project. He was in the Columbine shooting, and his sister was killed. The two people that were close to him, he was in the library when everything happened. And Columbine was one of the most difficult shootings in world history,
I remember it.
Yeah, he's been focused on this mission of, compassion and kindness and, anti-bullying. And, rather than being out of operating out of a sense of resentment or anger or fear, he operates out of a sense of love. And, I love people like that. I love the underdog. I love the people that are willing, to be the light despite, the darkness that they've confronted. And those stories always resonate with me, whether it's Rudy Rudiger or Kyle Maynard or Craig Scott or any of the movie heroines that we idolize, Indiana Jones.
That would be the good one, wouldn't it, Indiana Jones?
Yeah, and that's such a good one. Like we talked a lot about this actually at the Higher Purpose Project. Indiana Jones. We all love him, and if the movie,
even the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
I didn't see that one. I'm more into the classic ones. I like Raiders of the Lost Ark and
Stay with them, Dan. Stay with the vision.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And I mean, with Indiana Jones too, what's so powerful is, Indiana Jones, constantly gets beat up throughout the movie, and you really connect with him because he's a human being. And, and he refuses to surrender, to the thing that he wants to do, and at the end of it, you're like, man, that was such a great movie, but if he had just, went and got the Grail and that was it, then, that movie would have sucked. And I think that's so true.
I think so. Just before we sort of finish off of the whole show, I really just want to touch on about the Higher Purpose Project. Looking at the founders and the amount of people that are involved in that, how did you get all those people to buy into that one project? Because it's hard enough to get anything going on your own, but you've got some amazing guys there and ladies.
Absolutely, and these are all people that I've connected with in person along my own journey, and so our paths have crossed at different parts, and I've really been able to build some strong relationships with these different people. And I created the Higher Purpose Project because I wanted to build a Justice League, of superheroes. I wanted to help build a support structure where people can meet, like energy, in one location and continually have, people they can go to express the things that they're working on, to build collaborations, to really be, leaders and the light within communities. And, it was created out of the void that I experienced in my own life and, the void that you've experienced, not having anyone around you in your immediate circle, but, through interviews and stuff like that. So I wanted to create a real visceral, really deep, connected space for people to really open and share the things that make them come alive.
if you join the project, I know I've read that it's a 3-month project, but does it continue on indefinitely then? The connections that you build with those people are always there for you.
Absolutely. It's a family, and that's why we created it. So, we have a 4-day summit where we introduce people into, different things, yoga, gratitude practices. We work on masterminds. So we bring in some of the strongest people of our network just to really show people that, some of the people that we idolize, hold up as symbols, they're just human beings. They're no different than you or I, but they've done, their inner work, and they've taken a leap to build the things that are important to them. And so after the 4-day summit, we have ongoing weekly webinars so people can take part all around the world, and they can continue learning and applying the things to their own direct experiences, because we want to build leaders. We want to have people be accountable to the visions they want to create. We don't want to just create a consumer experience that doesn't have any type of real impact. And so we've had a lot of success the past summits that we've led.
I can see you marching into the White House.
Well, if the White House will accept me, maybe one day that'll be a reality. But for now, I'm just going to create an amazing community of people around me, and hopefully it has a domino effect on our international community, because it's really needed at this time, because we're in a period of transition. All of the systems, financial, religious, political, are in a state of flux, and it's up to the leaders, up to the heroes, to stand for the things that are important to them, and to really help, lead society in a positive direction.
Well, I'm going to lead us onto the very last part of this, and this is the bit that we call the sermon on the mic. And this is the bit when I really just throw it over to you, and you talk to the audience about your beliefs of what life can really be, if they are willing to take action. And as I've said to all the guests so far, really it's about talking to your sort of younger self and answering questions about what you might have done differently, or you may not have done anything differently, and the path that you are on now was always meant to be. So I'm going to hand it over to you. We've got a little bit of a theme tune, and then once it finishes, sir, you're on the mic.
Here we go with the best bit of the show, the sermon on the mic, the sermon on the mic.
Well, it's been a true honor to be a part of this show. What I can say from my own experiences is, we all get so caught up in, our purpose, our passion, the things that we're doing. But it's really important, to hold the vibration, to think about, the way that we want to make people feel, through the things that we are doing. Because there's such a tendency, to get identified, to pull into, get really, focused on the things that you're doing, and to really lose, the importance of connection, really lose the importance of, really feeling and really, living a life aligned with your passions. And what I think is so important in this world is when you experience, setback, when you experience resistance, from your parents or from your friends, it's just a reflection. They're reflecting, insecurities you have within yourself. And so whenever you see those things, don't blame it on the other people. Take a creator, take take the role of the creator. Do your inner work, and be constantly willing to kind of go into the unknown, to create on the highest level. Because if you're willing, to venture into that darkness and grow comfortable into it, you will see things that very few people experience in this world. I can say that from my own experiences. I can say that from, witnessing, the experiences of those people close to me. And, we live in an amazing world of opportunity. Human beings are waking up to their ability to create their path, to live aligned with the things that are important to them. And it's up to us to really be conscious about the story that we're creating. We're all here, we're all kids at heart, and we're all, having an impact on our world through the things that we do and the energy that we emanate in every day of our lives. So whether it's collecting trash or leading a nation, as a president or a member of a political party, it's focusing on the little things that create amazing changes in the people around you, and that usually comes through kindness and compassion and presence. It doesn't come through anything else. So it's really been an honor for David having me on the show, and I love the platform, and I'm really proud of everyone for having the courage to listen to this podcast and having the courage to take those little leaps of faith over the course of the journey. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dan. It's been an absolute pleasure to spend time in your company tonight. And I really wish you all the best with all your projects. And I believe that a higher purpose project is something that should expand and expand and expand, because it is obviously providing great value, and having that support network and providing those connections that grow and start to flourish, I know from personal experience, is what we should all have in our life. So thank you very much for being on the show, and I hope to speak to you again when you come back on and we continue to join up the dots, because joining up the dots is the only way to build our future.
Absolutely, David. Thank you very much.
That's the end of Join Up Dots. You've heard the conversation. Now it's time for you to start taking massive action. Create your future, create your life. It's the only life you've got. We'll be back again real soon. Join Up Dots, Join Up Dots, Join Up Dots, Join Up Dots. Join Up Dots.